Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm going to talk about the selling sphere today. Um, I'm going to talk about sales, but more specifically, I'm going to talk about titles and the roles that go along with them. Let me get a little background here. My employment history is kind of sketchy. I've only had like one real job in the professional event industry, other than being a professional stagehand and technician. And my first job was rental manager. I was hired to be the rental manager. My boss was the general manager. I had, two people in the warehouse. And so I was basically in charge of operations. Now, that was a great title at the time. Right now, it kind of makes me cringe a little bit to think that, my legacy is I was a rental manager for 7 or 8 years until we changed my title. And my title eventually evolved to Director of Sales and Operations. And the only reason it changed, because the company culture was not one that revolved around titles, was we needed an outside title because I was signing documents, I was working with enterprise accounts, large agencies, and rental managers just didn't have the gravitas they needed to feel that they were getting the final answer. So, given that my role was actually broader than just being a rental manager by that time, we had to up the title a little bit. But again, it was an outward facing thing, and most titles are outward facing. However, and the whole point of today's podcast is some people really think titles are important. So I want to talk about the selling sphere in particular because most of the titles are outward facing. They are seen by your customers and clients. And they need to have meaning that is relevant outside of your organization, but the role has to have relevance inside of your organization. So I want to talk about the primary roles that we see, and here is something to call them. You can call them something different, but listen to what the roles are and what the industry accepted term for that title actually is. And one thing you're going to notice as I talk through this is a lot of you and a lot of your employees have titles that really don't reflect their roles. And I'm talking to you, CEO of a $2 million company. Why would we give ourselves a title that belongs in a Fortune 1000 company? Where you're not CEOs. You're the general manager, you're the founder, you're the president. Your company doesn't need C-level. Likewise, why do we have account executives who are just order takers? Ah, there it is. Now I hit you. Pay attention. I've got some good news for you. Welcome to your weekly dose of uncommon sense, helpful insights, and tough love. The Intentional Success Podcast comes to you through the generous support of Merch Crew. For 25 years, Merch Crew has protected live event companies with a powerful and reliable solution for booking trusted AV freelancers that you select and at your rates. Save time, cut costs, and reduce risk. Start today at merchcrew.com. So let's talk about some of the titles and roles that we're going to get. Now, in the selling sphere that I talk about is the part of your organization that is responsible for developing and converting your sales funnel. So leads, prospects, and opportunities, converting them into proposals and buying customers who might also become clients. And this is our sales funnel. We're trying to create revenue out of leads. And your selling sphere is what does that. And selling isn't just about the sales role. It's about marketing and business development, customer relationships, event design, all the things that it takes in order to convert a prospect into a buyer belongs in the selling sphere. So if you're a larger company and you regularly have to have a technical expert on capabilities pitches or calls with the client to do discovery and everything, you probably need somebody in your selling organization to fulfill that role because that's an everyday need. But I'm going to set that one aside for now and let's focus on what are the more traditional selling roles that we find in organizations from $1 million to $50 million. Number one, The sales role, what is that? Let's talk about account managers, account executives, customer service reps, and project coordinators. All four of those titles are commonly found titles. If you're looking on online job searches, you can put those in, and you will find job descriptions and open positions that are describing these roles. Let me distill that for you into our world. Before I do that, let me explain the difference between a customer and a client. A client is somebody who brings you every opportunity and expects you to figure out how to help them. A customer who is somebody who brings you each opportunity one at a time. We convert one opportunity at a time, and the implication is that there'll be more opportunities after that. So customers do transactions with you. They may do them consistently, they may do them loyally, they may do them every single year, but accounts, executives, clients do everything with you. They say, you're our company. If it even looks like it's what you do, we're coming to you and talking to you about it. And maintaining these relationships is different. It's a different set of skills. It's a different process. It's a different amount of priorities. And if you're in a company that's large enough to have clients and customers, and you've got 3 or more salespeople in your organization, you probably need at least one account executive whose primary job is to maintain the relationships with your client base. It doesn't mean that they write every order, hire every technician. They don't do all the work, but they are the primary face for that account. So that the customer, regardless of inside their organization, remember there's going to be multiple people in the buyer's organization if you have a client. The object of the account executive is to avoid the situation where you have a one-to-one relationship with a single contact on the buyer and a single contact on the seller. And of course, we call this the bow tie effect. And the bow tie effect means we have two people who are keeping everybody else away from each other. And the account executive's primary job is to get as many of the people on your team to talk to as many people on the client's team, so that we have this very strong bond of multiple relationships that occur show after show after show. And within clients, you may have multiple tiers. You may have multiple departments. You may have different individual buyers and stakeholders that you deal with. And the account executive's job is to go deeper and wider into that organization, which means they are very much more strategic than they are tactical. They're not about just taking orders and checking on availability. They are all about maintaining the relationship and making sure that all of your services are being presented and delivered to the client in as helpful a way as possible. So the account executive is a very mature, a very high communication, very high intelligence, very clever role that larger organizations and client-driven organizations really need to have. It's different from the account manager. Now, account managers, we also want the best account managers we can get, but their primary job is to make sure that your customers, whether they are regular customers or perhaps even new customers, get handled consistently on the transaction to transaction basis that the customer is choosing to engage with you. So they are deciding they are not a client. They're not coming to you for everything. They may run everything past you, but they treat each job as an individual consideration. We often know that we are dealing with customers because they work from RFPs. They often develop their ask and send it to you. They frequently shop it around. They frequently entertain other vendors to see what they might do on a future project. And more times than not, they're probably going to leverage that information against you in some fashion. The account manager's job is to focus on each individual order, one order at a time. The goal, of course, is to get them to bring us orders regularly. So we do want the long-term relationship, but we have to rebuild the relationship every single time. We have to reestablish our value to them, make sure they understand that we are ideal for this project, and negotiate the best possible outcome for both parties on a job-by-job basis. This is what 90% of our industry needs. We need account managers who handle individual jobs for multiple customers and have the capacity and the flexibility that if you have more than one account manager, that they can be relatively interchangeable. In other words, if a customer gets tired of this account manager, there's another account manager that they can talk to. If this account manager is too busy, there's another account manager that can pick it up. So typically, if I have one account manager, I'm probably going to need two. And when I have two account managers and I have developed some client relationships, I can now justify having an account executive. But very rarely are we going to start with an account executive, except if your business is purely client based. For instance, if your primary focus is association meetings and multi-year contracts, this is an account executive situation. Now, well, there are lots of individual transactions on there, but the fact is we have a client who says they are going to give us a book of business that is going to change and evolve, but we are their company for X number of years, or until either of us decides it's no longer working. So account managers are very valuable for these jobs the first time they come our way. But as soon as these people become clients, we really want to have an account executive relationship. Now, the question you should be asking right now is, can I have a person whose title is account manager who is also the account executive for a key account? And yes, you can. That is the main point of what I'm trying to tell you today. The title doesn't matter, except to the people on the outside. It's the role that matters. So you can have account executives that occasionally do transactional jobs, do customer relationship jobs, but their primary focus and their primary role is to develop client accounts. Account managers may have client accounts, but their primary role is to develop customers. Now, is it a career path to move from an account manager to an account executive? It could be, but it doesn't have to. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it because I find that they're two different skill sets. So account executives tend to be more strategic. They tend to work with gray a lot better. They tend to work broadly. Account managers tend to be more tactical. They work with specifics. They look at the availability of dates and time. They have a different sense of urgency. Clients we have to take care of. They're going to come to us last minute. They're going to throw things at us we've never done before, and we've got to do it. Customers will bring us stuff that we have to consider whether or not that project is a good fit. And so the processes are different. The personalities, requirements are a little bit different. But yes, there are people who can switch between those roles. Many of those people are owners, and the first person they hire is probably an account manager. Now, account executives and account managers don't cover everything you do. You have some part of your business that is very transactional. It is rental based. Maybe you do small events, you do parties, galas, weddings, whatever it might be. You need a certain amount of interface that what I call a customer service rep. These are, I'm going to say order taker, but I'm not going to say order taker in the pejorative. This is not a bad thing. This is a role. When it's very easy to buy from you, you have packages that are set up. We're doing little press conferences. We're doing small sales meetings. We're doing rental orders. It's very easy to have a customer service rep that simply takes the orders, gives them some advice, say, hey, would you like this feature? Would you like that feature? It's the classic, I won't say sales role, but it is the classic order taker role. Customer service rep is a great title because it is about customer service and you are representing the available services for that clientele. Now, it's important to note as we go through this that a customer service rep can't write a show. If the buyer who comes in on a transactional basis is suddenly talking about doing a major event, they just didn't know how to develop an RFP, we're going to send them to an account manager. We're going to get them out of the customer service rep because it's not designed to do that. Customer service rep is triage. We will help them if we can, but as soon as we're outside the scope or the role of the customer service rep, we will escalate it. Now, I'll pause here and say I'll tell a story about a customer that I worked with many, many years ago. who had a sales process challenge, and their sales process challenge was that anytime an inbound opportunity came in, the owner felt that the account executive needed to take the call because they were the most equipped to do the triage, do the assessment, do the qualification, drill down, find out what we could really sell them. And we didn't want to miss the opportunity to discover a potential client for a simple inquiry. He didn't trust his customer service reps or his account managers to field that call. So what we had was an account executive who was constantly bogged down and taking small orders and returning calls to people who weren't doing a lot of buying. It was a broken process. The solution was counterintuitive. All calls should go to the customer service. All unqualified calls should go to the customer service rep first. And we gave them a script to help qualify the process and help them if they could, or pass them on if they couldn't. So I've talked about the three titles. Another title you'll find in your sales role as your company becomes bigger, and the more account executives and account managers and customer service reps you have, the more you're going to need what I call a project coordinator. Now, we put project coordinators in the planning side because it's another term for it's a title that covers all the things that we do in procurement. Your labor coordinator is really a project coordinator. Your travel person is a project coordinator. Your sub-rental person is a project coordinator. Your inventory management is a project coordinator. But on the selling side, a project coordinator is an assistant to the sales manager that we haven't talked about yet. They're not an assistant to the salespeople, because as soon as you make them an assistant to the salespeople quit doing their own work and keep dumping it on this poor project coordinator. Project coordinator is a person who can be the liaison to your planning team, the liaison to your admin team, and when directed by the sales manager, relieve some of the overload burden on the account executives and the account managers and the customer service reps when we recognize they're getting underwater a little bit. So it's a directed position. It's not a free-for-all position that anybody can grab. So there's our primary team. The two more roles I'm going to talk about are sales director and business development. I'm going to talk about business development last because that is marketing. And in our selling team, we probably have a director of marketing, but most of my listeners are going to outsource this. Unless you've got, 30, 50, 100 employees, doing marketing internally rarely makes sense. And you can have a director of marketing who can be an expert on that, but you're still going to need outside marketing. I mean, for instance, on my marketing team that I outsource is 4 people. 4 people touch my company every single day. I can't afford to put those 4 people on full time. So to do complete marketing in your organization, you've got 100 employees. You might be able to afford the 3 or 4 employees it takes to do it all internally. Will you be good at it? Yeah, that remains to be seen. Marketing firms are going to be better at it than you are, so I'd still prefer to outsource. Now, back to the sales director. Very often, your first sales manager, and I'm making air quotes for those of you who are listening, is probably the salesperson who was there first, and the owner's tired of managing the other salespeople, so they make one of them a sales manager and expect that to work. I've been in this industry for 40 years. I'm a consultant for 20 of them. It doesn't work. It just simply doesn't work. The director of sales for your business should not be a salesperson. They should not be managing accounts. If you need them to write orders and manage accounts, you don't have a sales direction problem. You have a sales capacity problem. Okay. More times than not, you, the owner of the company, are in charge of selling if you've got a good selling team. But once your selling team gets to be 4 or 5 people, that's too many direct reports for an owner who probably has people reporting to him directly all over the organization. And that's when we need to bring in a sales director. And a sales director can bring whatever knowledge that is valuable to the entire team and process. They might even be helpful at closing deals. But if they start managing accounts, whether it's a client or a customer, we're going to lose, because that has to come first. What a sales director does is manages the processes and the roles within side of sales, focuses on the forecast and the results, monitors margins, does training, does coaching. Okay. They don't have to talk to customers. Can they show up every once in a while and kiss the babies and shake hands? Of course they can. They should look impressive. They got a great title. Okay, they could be the national sales director if you really want to elevate them. But the fact is, it's an administrative job. And until you have an organization that you can no longer administrate yourself, you need to hire an administrator. And if you're trying to double dip them in a tactical role, they're not going to succeed at the role you need them to do the most. So director of sales, VP of sales, whatever you want to call it, really is a management role, okay, not a sales role. So the final one I'll talk about, because we run into it more often and it is difficult to outsource, is business development. And business development is the human face of marketing. So most of your marketing is digital. There may be a little print there, but the fact is we are pushing marketing out, which potential buyers, customers, acquaintances consume often passively. Sometimes they're looking for you and they consume it actively. Sometimes they discover you on social media and it's a passive relationship. We've got to get out there and soften the beach for our sales team. We've got to motivate potential leads to become prospects. We've got to help prospects decide when to buy from us. And marketing does a lot of that. Business development picks up where marketing ends. Marketing can't nudge the way that a human being can. Marketing can't develop a personal relationship the way business development can. So if we're very clear on who our target clients are and our target customers are, we can put business development in the field to attend the conferences, go to the events, do the outreach, deliver warm cookies, whatever it might be, to put a human in front of the potential buyers to help them see themselves doing business with you. And it's a very critical role, but business development doesn't write orders. They don't close deals. They don't go on shows, right? They are there to deliver a qualified prospect, better yet, a qualified opportunity to an account executive or an account manager or the team for further development. So what is the business development person developing? If you have somebody who needs a capabilities pitch from you, kudos to the business development person. They did their job. Let's get them that capabilities pitch. If they need a discovery on a project that they're doing, kudos to business development. We got them to the table. We can put them in front of the selling team and help develop that job. If we bring them an order and hand it to somebody, business development's job is to get that qualified opportunity, whatever it is, out of their hands as quickly as possible in the most appropriate way for the circumstances that we're in. We don't rush to write proposals. Right? Writing proposal is generally the last thing you need to do when you have a new contact and a potential client or customer. What we need to do first is listen. We need to listen. We need to share. We need to listen some more. We need to get some conceptual agreement. Then we will move forward with some sort of proposal or presentation to help eventually close the business. But these are what the roles do. And the better we understand them, and the more consistently we as an industry use these titles, understand the difference between a client and a customer, know what the difference between strategy and transactions are, the better job we will do on putting the right interface in front of your customers, which is mission critical. So, do you need to change your titles? Maybe. Do you need to clarify your roles and make sure that you have the appropriate roles for the business that you're in? Absolutely. 100%. That's what you need to take away from this podcast. You can fix the titles later. All of you who develop a national vice president of blah, 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 and all they really are is an account manager, but they've been around so long, you gave them a title in lieu of a raise. You know who you are. We can fix that later. First thing is, fix your selling organization, make sure you have the right roles, and make sure you've got the right leadership to maintain the processes for the effective results you're looking for. So I hope that was helpful. That was a long one, but it was very important. Thanks for listening. If this episode of the Intentional Success Podcast has made an impact on your day, then please leave a review and don't forget to like and subscribe. This podcast has been brought to you by the helpful folks at Merch Crew.